Tribe, Book 2, Todd Mills Mystery. Author, R.D. Zimmerman. Publisher, Scrib Pub, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Narrator, Eric Aust. Chapter 26. As soon as Todd drove his dark green Cherokee up the snowy street to this run-down building, he knew the answer. He checked the address they'd been given at the hospital personal department and looked up at the small gray house, which was clearly falling apart. "This is the place, but Zeb's not here," he said to Rollins, who sat in the passenger seat. "And what makes you say that?" "Look at the snow. No one has shoveled, and there aren't even any footprints." "Actually, it doesn't look like anyone's living here, does it?" The little building located in a rundown neighborhood not too far from the old Sears store on Lake Street did in fact look deserted. Unbroken snow not only covered the front walk leading to the house, but it also drifted up against the front door. Todd took note of 3 metal mailboxes tacked by the front door and assumed that this wreck of a house had been carved up into 3 apartments by some absentee slumlord. That this was all Zeb could afford didn't surprise Todd. Parking in a drift, Todd and Rollins climbed out and made their way up the steps and onto the front porch. The address they'd been given at the hospital claimed that Zeb lived at apartment 3, but there was no name on that mailbox, only an arrow pointing to the side. "Come on," said Todd. Reaching the back of Zeb's house, Todd and Rollins found the 3rd apartment, a small ground-floor place. Rollins put a finger to his lips and motioned for Todd to step just outside the door. They stood still, trying to discern anything from within, a TV, a stereo, but there was nothing, least of all a baby's cry. Todd then stepped forward and peered through a small window in the door. Inside he saw a tiny kitchen with 1 chair, and then a room beyond on the floor, of which lay a mattress, the sheets and blanket pushed all around. "He's obviously not here," said Todd. "God, I wish we could take a look inside, see if any of that stuff is his." "Good idea." Rollins nudged Todd aside, pulled back his gloved hand, and punched a hole in the small window in the door. "Oh, shit, that hurt," said Rollins, clutching his fist. "I can't believe you just did that." He nodded at the door and said, "Well, don't just stand there." Todd glanced from side to side, saw no neighbors, and pushed in a few more shards of glass. He then reached through the small hole, fumbled around until he found a bolt. Within a matter of seconds, he was pushing back the door, and they were inside. The apartment was as pathetic as it was small. What had probably once been a back hall was now filled with something that was supposed to be a kitchen. An old, dingy refrigerator on the right, a worn sink on the left, and a tiny electric stove just beyond that. Neatly placed on a counter were a single plate, a bowl, glass, knife, spoon, fork, and toothbrush, all laid out to dry on a dish towel. Todd took a couple of more steps, peered into a tiny bathroom with only a toilet and a haphazard shower crammed into its crooked corners. A single brown towel was neatly folded on the only towel bar. Even before they moved into the next room, Todd knew that this was in fact Zeb's place. While Zeb may have shaken a religious cult, he was still operating under their code of cleanliness and order. The only thing in the entire apartment that was disheveled was the mattress, which, along with the chair in the kitchen, constituted the extent of furniture. Todd and Rollins stood on the edge of the main room, a space no longer than 10 by 12, and studied the orange shag carpeting, the flimsy fake wood paneling on the walls, and the sheets and blanket that had been kicked and tossed this way and that. Rollins went directly to a small closet at the back and rifled through some shirts and pants, while Todd just stood there overwhelmed. This was the shadow of Zeb's life, his few possessions, his pathetic home. So just how was Todd related to all of this, if at all? Todd spotted a black canvas suitcase against the wall, lifted it, noted that it had some weight to it, then took the bag and sat down on the edge of the mattress. Unzipping it, he found a makeshift dresser, socks and underwear filling one side of it, some t-shirts and a pair of jeans in the other. In a small side pouch, Todd discovered a manila envelope filled with papers. Looking inside the first thing he found was a color photograph. "No doubt about it, this is Zeb's place," he said, studying the picture. "There's a photograph of Ripka and him. Rollins had returned to the kitchen, where he was opening the one overhead cabinet and asked, "Anything else?" "Just a sec." Peering into the envelope, Todd spied a stack of papers, which he dumped onto the mattress. It was a file of sorts, Zeb having gathered all of his important papers together. There were a couple of letters postmarked Santa Fe. Hadn't Janice said that was where his mother lived? Some photos taken somewhere in the mountains. His birth certificate, a couple of old grade school cards, his social security card, and finally a blood donor card, which Todd studied carefully. It was from a blood bank in Santa Fe, and it listed not only Zeb's blood type as AB, but that he had twice given blood. The last time had been 3.5 years ago, which Todd figured would have been just prior to Zeb's reunion with his father in Colorado. "Nothing really in the kitchen or bathroom," said Rollins, having gone over them a second time. "How about you? Find anything?" Todd stared at the blood donor card, realizing that it could hold the answer to the most pressing question on his mind. Did he even dare mention it to Rollins? "No, nothing," said Todd, stuffing everything except the donor card back in the envelope. "Not even any telephone numbers?" "No." "Then where did he sleep last night?" asked Rollins. "I mean, he had a baby with him. I'm just assuming, or rather hoping, that that was his own kid, that he somehow got her back. You don't suppose he knows someone else in town, do you?" "I have no idea. Maybe we should stop by some of these shelters." "That's not a bad idea." Rollins checked his watch. "Shit, I have a deposition downtown in 20 minutes. Can you give me a lift? I think we found everything here that we're going to, don't you?" "Yeah," replied Todd as he got up, for he potentially discovered far more than he'd hoped for. "Let's go." A Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold: to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides, and in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.